Welcome to RPGamer's review of Tales of Iron. This review was written by Squiggly Leo, narrated by JC Servant, and the video edited by Her Frog. When trying to come up with some useful comparisons to help explain the idea behind developer Oddbug Studios' action RPG Tales of Iron, it's hard to immediately think of another game quite like it. While it shares some DNA with the likes of Team Cherry's 2017 release Hollow Knight, as well as some of the more recent 2D Metroid titles, it feels like it's its own beast a good portion of the time. This is by no means a bad thing, as the game delivers a well-crafted romp through a fairy tale kingdom of rats, frogs, and other critters, while offering engaging and challenging combat to boot. Tales of Iron takes place in an enchanting kingdom of the rats, whose king established an era of peace for his kingdom after successfully driving back a race of brutal and bloodthirsty frog invaders. With the king now advanced in years, it falls to his sons to compete with one another in trial by combat to determine the king's rightful successor. Players take on the role of Prince Reggie, the youngest and most diminutive of the king's sons, to challenge his kin for the crown. However, upon Reggie winning the contest, disaster strikes the kingdom as the evil frogs disrupt the proceedings, killing the old king and putting the kingdom to the torch. It falls to Reggie to live up to his recently inherited duties and avenge his royal father, rescue his subjects, and set the kingdom back on a path to peace and prosperity. The frogs are a bloodthirsty race, so besting them will require Reggie to master various combat skills. Players have access to the fairly standard loadout of light and heavy and ranged attack options, each with different weapons that can be equipped. More importantly than Reggie's attack options, however, are his enemy's battle tactics. Players will need to quickly respond to imminent attacks in one of several ways, or be caught unawares and sustain heavy damage. Reggie can easily block or dodge normal enemy attacks, provided he's facing the right way, but enemy special combat skills are a different matter. As the enemy winds up for one of these, a color-coded on-screen warning icon cues players into what's coming. For example, a yellow warning symbol indicates that the upcoming attack can be parried, breaking the enemy's defense momentarily and opening them up for some free counter damage. On the other hand, a red attack cannot be blocked or parried, and so it must be evaded with a well-timed dodge. It's a fairly simple system that nonetheless requires a careful dance of attacks, blocks, dodges, and parries to be mastered. Being a far more personal tete-a-tete, combat rarely goes beyond one-on-one or one-on-two skirmishes, though slaying a foe may cause another to run in and take their place. Where players are well and truly tested, however, are the boss fights. Bosses tend to be large, with unique designs and varied movesets that are fun to learn and get used to, as they are challenging to deal with. Bosses test Reggie with many one-off abilities that may fly, burrow underground, crawl along the ceiling, or perform dodge and parry moves with a much greater reach than the game's garden variety foes. Some even come in pairs, or with additional enemies to complicate things. At the time of writing, Tales of Iron introduces the free Bloody Whiskers DLC, which adds a secret boss and a combat arena, greatly upping the level of late-game challenge available to players who have mastered the already considerable difficulty of the base game. Though challenging, exploring the far reaches of Reggie's kingdom consistently offers new and enchanting sights to uncover. The side-scrolling world looks great, with beautiful hand-drawn artwork on display, and multiple fore and background layers melding together. While the game is often dark, particularly due to a large amount of underground areas like sewers or mines, it's never drab, and indoor spaces are lavishly depicted. The map isn't as large as other games of this type, but in a nice touch, it features environmental details as Reggie's exploration fills in more and more of it. Reggie will be unable to access every nook and cranny until additional items are discovered, like a gas mask to traverse sections shrouded by poison mist. Side quests are, unfortunately, less enchanting, being few in number and fairly shallow, though a fast travel system at least makes backtracking to them more tolerable. Though Tales of Iron is a fairy tale at heart, it's a far cry from the lighter Disney-esque norm often seen. Its somber and brooding aesthetic ultimately create a mature and detailed world that just so happens to be populated by animals. It's brutal and violent without being gory or over the top. For example, Reggie is able to heal himself by drinking freshly squeezed bug juice, which is every bit as messy to harvest from insect carcasses as it sounds. The most intense pops of color come from the bright yellow blood that is spilled in combat, accompanying wet squelching sounds spraying through the air and coating enemies as Reggie's weapon hacks away at them. The game's audio design also mirrors its dark fairy tale atmosphere. Some areas, particularly early on before tragedy strikes the kingdom, feature jaunty and upbeat medieval music, while the lion's share of the areas are steeped in atmospheric ambient noise. Since the areas include places like musty crypts and cavernous sewers, the audio design is suitably foreboding. The game's lone speaking role, however, will be instantly familiar to many RP gamers, as the game is narrated by the unmistakable Geralt of Rivia himself, Doug Cockle. This is more than merely a name in the font for the game's marketing, as Cockle's narrator jumps in quite often, lending some welcome flavor and world building. Less pleasant are the actual character voices. Every time someone needs to communicate with Reggie, players must endure a sequence of staccato tones that resemble a wooden recorder stuck in someone's windpipe spewing a sequence of discordant notes at them. Ultimately, Tales of Iron is a pleasant surprise. The kingdom's darker tone and non-inconsiderable challenge made it far more engaging title than its Animal Kingdom plot might at first brush suggest. While exploration is fun enough, it's the combat system that's the real standout here. Simple enough to be quickly learned, but intricate enough to provide plenty of variety, particularly during the fun boss fights. With fine presentation values to boot, it's an enjoyable overall package that's easy to recommend. RPGamer gives Tales of Iron a 3.5 out of 5. For more details, hit up the link in the description below. For more video content, subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitch for daily streams of your favorite RPGs. Join in on the discussion at rpgamer.com/discord. And for the latest in RPG news, head over to rpgamer.com.